Hey, it's Mike over at fishyourassoff.com, and today what we're talking about is bass fishing like the pros, and not necessarily bass fishing, just bass fishing. And this doesn't matter, these tips apply to whether you're catching snook, redfish, tarpon, whatever. It's just copy those bass, those pro bass guys, because they really know what they're doing when it comes to lures. And that's really what I was noticing. You know, when I was a kid, I watched Roland Martin, Hank Parker, all those guys, you know, Bill Dance. And, you know, because probably from 5 up until 20, 90% of the fishing I did was bass fishing because I lived in the woods. You know, once I got a little older, I moved closer to the beach. Now it's flipped, where 90% of the fishing I do is tarpon, snook, redfish, trout type thing. But I used to always watch them because I wanted to be like them when I was little, and I just noticed a few of the traits that they have that I think will help just about anyone catch any kind of fish as long as you're fishing with lures. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about today, is just watch some of these guys, and I'm going to talk about what they do that you might not notice. So here we go. All right, bass fishing like a pro, but any fishing like a pro. Yeah, I was watching, what's his name? Van Dam, Kevin Van Dam. He was fishing one of these Bassmasters, something like that, and I guess he's the Michael Jordan bass fishing these days. I was just watching him, and he does so many casts. I mean, he casts that thing, and he does these things just like this too, right? So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 things, right? Cast more. You got to check your lure, make sure the presentation is still rig right, cast accurately and quickly, you know, wherever you're casting. If you do catch a keeper, you got to hurry up. These guys have to hurry up and weigh it or whatever. Or in your case, you might need to check it, measure it, throw it in the fish cooler, or get rid of it if it's not something you want. But I'm telling you what, I was watching him fish, and he would cast that thing, and I think it was a spinnerbait or a crankbait, whatever he was using, he'd cast it out. And he'd be like, okay, I'm going to cast that log over there. It would land within like 6 inches of that log. He'd reel it back, you know, whatever speed he was doing his retrieve. He'd bring it back in the boat, immediately check his blades and make sure everything was right. His skirt on the spinnerbait was right. Boom, he cast it right back out. I mean, he didn't have that thing in a boat for more than 2 seconds, and he did another cast. So, you know, you really think about that, you know, when you're out there fishing. I mean, are you out there, you do a cast, and then you know, have a bite of sandwich, and then you check your cell phone, and then you know, do this or do that, maybe post a picture on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. You know, that's not very conducive to catching more fish. You know, I was just watching him, for instance, and I was just amazed how many casts that guy did, and just how quickly he went through these 4 things. Just like it was nothing. Every single cast, he'd check his lure real quick, see if there's any junk on it. But casting accurately. You know, it might be some dock or something that he was fishing, or a root or whatever. I mean, his bait landed within about 6 inches of where he wanted it to go. So if you want to catch a lot more fish, say you're snook fishing, and you're fishing the docks. Well, you better be able to get that thing under that dock. At the very least, right at the dock pilings, or you aren't going to catch any snook. Those snook are in those pilings for the most part. I mean, sometimes they're in between, of course, but for the most part, you got to get it under or right on within 6 inches of that dock, those dock pilings. Same with the mangroves. Say you're fishing for snook with lures or redfish in the mangrove roots. Well, you basically have about 18 inches. So, you know, if you're further than 18 inches away from those mangroves, you're probably not going to get that fish's attention. You got to get it in there with a super accurate cast if you're going to do that. And, you know, just watch some of these bass guys, the way they do it, how quickly they do everything, how efficiently they do it. They cover, basically they look at the water almost like a grid system of different depths or whatever. So they'll cast out there, boom, boom, all right, check it. They vary the retrieves. Okay, now I'm fishing in deeper water. I'm going to switch up my lures. You know, you really, really could learn a lot from these bass guys. Another thing I noticed, when they get a fish hooked on their thing, they can tell almost instantly if it's something that's going to count for them to, win the tournament or whatever they're in. So if it's a little bitty bass or whatever, they just reel it in real quick and boom, take it off the hook real quick. They're not like they're harming them. They're really doing the right thing when it comes to the health of the fish. But they just reel that thing in there, get it off, boom, cast right back out till they get a big one, right? And if you could just learn how to do some of these things that they do, you're going to catch a ton more fish. Just really watch some of these guys. And I was just watching that Kevin Van Dam guy, do it. I couldn't believe it. I do a lot of casts. I fish jigs a lot. My favorite lure is probably a DOA, 3-inch shad with maybe an 1/8 ounce jig head. That's what I fish with, and I fish with that thing 80-90% of the time because I'm fishing in water that's maybe 6 feet deep tops, right? And I want snook and redfish and flounder and trout and all those things will hit that. Tarpon, they'll all hit that. And I was thinking, I cover a lot of water when I'm fishing. I'm a kayak fishing guide, so it's kind of my job to know how to fish. And then I was watching them, I'm like, God, they do twice as many casts as I do. So cover that water fast. So do your 4 things and you'll catch more fish, I guess is my point. Pretend like you're a bass fisherman. Because those guys got it down to a science. I'm telling you, do more casts. Cast more accurately, right? Get close to the thing. Check your presentation every single time. That little piece of weed or the rubber in your tail is hooked funny, or you got your bait isn't swimming right because it got kind of a little hit and it's sideways on the jig now. Do that. And when you got some sort of trash fish on there, get them in, let them off, boom, get right back out there casting again. So it makes a lot of sense to start fishing like these Bass Pros. Watch one of those shows. You're always on TV on Sundays anyways. Just watch one. I don't care if you're a tarpon specialist. You will catch more fish if you fish like a Bass Pro. It's as simple as that. Doesn't matter what you're fishing. As long as you're fishing with lures, watch what those guys do. You're going to catch more fish. But I think that's about it for today. It's just something that kind of dawned upon me, and I got to think up things to do videos about anyways, right? So that one kind of dawned upon me, and I think that'll help you out a lot next time you're out there fishing with lures. But you can see more of this information right on our website. It's www.fishyourassoff.com, how-to section, everything you need to know about catching inshore. We cover everything from bass, crappie, specks, speckled perch for people here in Florida. Redfish, trout, sharks, tarpon, whatever. We cover it. It's all on there. So go ahead and check it out. But I think that's it for today. So until next time, we'll see you then. All right. Bye-bye.